Hi guys, welcome back to my channel one more time. My babies are sleeping. Oh, Tony's gonna wake up. I'm pretty sure he's gonna wake up because he's been sleeping for like 3 hours straight, so he's waking up. It's okay. Leah should be asleep for a little bit longer. She just fell asleep. I wanted to come here and tell you guys about this new series that I'm doing on my channel, that I'm gonna keep doing. I think my testimony series and my stories series, which is the one that I'm starting right now, I think these are gonna go on for until my channel has an end, because I feel like I'm always gonna have something to talk about throughout those two topics. The reason why I want to start my story series is because on my old channel I did this very long 3-part video of my whole life story, and I thought that was just very overwhelming. I ended up deleting it, like I deleted my old channel, but I ended up deleting it. I felt like it was too overwhelming. I spoke for too long, gave me a headache. I had to edit it and everything, and it was just way too overwhelming for me. I didn't want to do that again, but I also felt it was important for people to know my stories, or my life story, because I did have a lot of things in it. Plus, I'm putting my life out there on YouTube, on the internet, and people are gonna wonder and they're gonna ask. So I thought it was important for me to do that. I feel like I could help people out by this. Like I always say, I'm going to speak with my experience, how I've learned from my experience, and but these are more of my stories, that get down to the point, tell you guys what I went through, how I dealt with it, things like that. Now, so this video is going to be about being a teen parent, teen pregnancy, how I dealt with everything, how everyone found out, and I just want to get right into it. I don't want to make it too long, so let's get right into it. I want to tell you guys the backstory. I was 12 whenever I met AJ. We started talking around 2011, the beginning of 2011. We ended up dating whenever I was 12. Yes, I was 12. I liked him. That was 13 though, so if that makes a difference. I liked him. That was 13. I was really 12, and we started dating, officially dating, in April of 2011, but then my mom found out. She caught us, and the next day we were like dating for a day. She caught us because I went across the street to a track and field game. I liked her, that I was gonna go watch my friends play, or to watch my friends race, and in reality I went to go watch AJ, because I was such a big liar back then, she caught us because AJ watched me home. The field is literally right across my house, and so AJ watched me home, and right whenever he was walking me home, my mom and my cousins and my sister were walking the dog. So it was like dark outside kind of, and so I didn't know it was them until I realized that was my dog. And so I was like, oh crap. And so I was like, AJ, you need to go, like just go, like go, please walk fast. And so like he turned around, and when he tried giving me a hug, I'm like, no, let go. And like he started walking back, and I remember I got to mom, she's like, who's that? And I'm like, oh, it's just a friend, he just wanted to walk me home. She's like, who's that? Don't lie to me. Like, you know, your mom always knows whenever you're lying to her. So I was like, it's my friend. And I remember she's like, I'm gonna go talk to him. And I'm like, no, like please. I was so embarrassed. I like grabbed her by her wrist, and I was like, please don't go talk to him. And she ended up going, like, I think she ended up talking to him, I'm not sure, but and then she, you know, after that she's like, I don't want you dating right now, you're too young, you know, you should be worried about school and everything. And I was just like, hey, okay. So the next day I really wanted to listen to her, so I did. The next day I texted AJ, I was like, we can't date anymore, I'm sorry, like I'm breaking up with you. And he was just like, why? And I was like, oh, because mom thinks I'm too young. And he's just like okay. And but then he told me, I'll wait for you. And I was like, what? I remember he confused me because he was still calling me baby and babe and stuff like that. And I was just like, huh, like what are you talking about? And he's like, well, I'll wait for you, I'll wait till your mom lets you date. And so I was just like, oh, like that's how he reeled me in. Just like I said, I was only 12. I only had like a few little crushes, you know, here and there, like boyfriend and girlfriend, little, like not even really boyfriend and girlfriend. And so it was just really interested in me how he said, I'll wait for you until your mom, you know, lets you date me. And so I was like, oh, okay, like, okay. And so he would come over, we'd hang out, I'd go over to his house, he'd come over to my house. Throughout this time, my mom was letting me know about sex. She was like telling me, she was informing me. She wasn't like a naive mother. She wasn't like playing dumb. Like she knew, you know, what went through teenagers' heads, and she was telling me, but it went in through one ear and out of the other one. So I was like, no, mom, like I'm not gonna do that. That's gross. I was like, tell mom that's gross. I don't, you know, I don't do that. I'm not even thinking about that. But in reality, I was. And so after that, we started dating July 10th. So it was like April to July 10th. I turned 13 I turned 13 on June 18th let's see, June 18th, I turned 13, so we waited a month to ask my mom, and so she said that we could date, and so we started dating on July 10th. I remember AJ asked me out that day, like officially, and so we're like officially dating. We could tell everybody that we're dating, but our relationship started off as a lie because, you know, we lied to everybody. We lied to my mom that we were dating, but behind her back, behind everybody's back, we were actually dating and making out and holding hands and doing that stuff. And so then I got pregnant around November, I believe, and I knew I was pregnant right away. I was having sex without any protection, and me and AJ were both very dumb. We were, you know, talking about, you know, do you want kids or not? I was just so dumb, and I ended up getting pregnant. I remember AJ was happy that I was pregnant. I was like, I didn't know where I was standing, but I was happy that I was pregnant, but I was scared to tell my mom. I didn't know how she was gonna act. I was 13 years old, for God's sake. Like, I couldn't imagine my baby being 13 and pregnant. But after that, I told AJ right away that I thought I was pregnant whenever I started getting the, you know, symptoms, or you know, whenever I missed my period. I told him. I was very open with him, and so he knew. And I remember I told one really good friend that I would always tell everything to. She got me a pregnancy test. I went to go take it at a fast food restaurant, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I didn't read the directions. I did it really fast. I feel like if somebody was watching me, I was like doing it so fast. I'm like, I can't, like, I cannot be caught. And so like I did it. I took it. I didn't even let it sit there for long. I just like grabbed it, shoved it into my backpack, and I was like, I'm not pregnant. And you know, I was lying once again. And so my friend and I walked home. Whenever I got home, I took out the pregnancy test, and it had a cross on it. And so I like realized, because it said right there, you know, on the thing, not pregnant, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. And so I remember I texted AJ, like, I'm pregnant, AJ, I don't know what to do. And by this time I had only told like about two of my really good friends that I knew weren't going to tell everybody. I remember I told AJ, I was like, you can't tell people. And he's like, well, I'm going to tell my friends too. And like, he was just like, not to offend him, or, you know, he's just a really big mouth person. And so I remember he told a whole bunch of people, and I was like, I remember every time that he would tell somebody, he would tell me. He's like, oh, I told this person today, and oh, I told this person today. I'm like, AJ, you can't be telling people. And he didn't listen, of course. He kept telling people. And throughout this time, my mom saw the change in my body. She was like, why are your boobs bigger? Why are your hips look larger? What's going on? And she's like, oh, nothing. Like, you know, I would wear like loose clothes to hide it. And I remember she would always ask me, you know, why do you look like this? What's going on? And I would make, you know, myself look stupid and her look stupid, obviously, because I was straight up lying to her face. And you know, I just kept like, oh, nothing. And the reason why I was so scared, I know there's tons of girls out there who, you know, they find out they're pregnant and they like call their mom, and they like go visit their mom, and they tell their mom. But the reason why I was scared was because my father physically abused us. He beat us whenever we were young. He put that fear in us, and I feel like my mother, as the other parent, got all the fault for it. You know, he broke that trust. He changed me as a child. I didn't really know who I was, and so I put all that anger and all that hatred towards my mom, and so and plus all that fear, I gave it to me. Like, I just placed it upon my mom, because at this point my parents weren't they were divorced by this point, and so I think I just put all that on my mom, and it was the most unfairest thing that I could do to her, but I did it. I felt like I couldn't trust her. I felt like she was like practically my dad. She's the one who hurt me, and I don't know why I felt like that, but I felt like that towards her. I felt hatred. I felt like it was her fault for certain things, and it was so unfair for me to feel like that towards her. So at this point, that's what I was feeling. I didn't trust her. I didn't want to tell her, even though she was really trying to build my trust by letting me know, hey honey, you know, like, if you have sex, this is gonna happen. If, you know, I'm here for you. If you need anything, I'm here for you. If he breaks your heart, I'm here for you. But I just literally, I did not open myself up to her, and I think that's one thing that I struggle with a lot. I don't open up to people very much, but I'm not struggling with it as much as I used to, because if I wasn't, I wouldn't be on this camera and talking to you guys. So with that being said, that's the reason why I couldn't tell her. I didn't want to tell her, by this point, AJ was telling everybody, and he ended up telling two of my brother's best friends, my oldest brother's best friends, one of his friends told them. And I remember I was sitting in class, 8th grade. I was in 8th grade, and I remember sitting in class, and he got a text message. I got it out, and I read it, and it said, "Are you pregnant?" And oh gosh, I was so scared at this point. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna say? I can't lie to him, because if I lie to him and he finds out that I am, I'm gonna be beat. And like, you know, I was like, all this abusive stuff started going through my head because of what I had experienced with my father. And so I was like, oh, I can't say no, and I don't want to say yes. So I was like, I'll put I don't think so. So I texted back and I said, I don't think so. And I remember he texted me back, he said, you don't think so? And I said, yeah. And he's like, oh, just wait till you get home, Leslie. You shouldn't be sick. You shouldn't have sent me that. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, fear and everything just started overwhelming me, like questioning myself, like, are you really pregnant? How do you know you're really pregnant? And so I remember I got on the bus that day. I came home, and then my brother sat, you know, I came inside the door and my sister was sitting there. She's like, you're pregnant. And I just kind of like looked at her and I was just like, oh crap. And then my brother, he heard me come in and he walked into the living room and he's like, Leslie, tell me what's going on. And I remember he sat me on the couch. My sister sat between us just in case if anything happened, you know, me, like, he, you know, anything, like, because we're raised abusively, you guys, so, you know, just if anything happened. And I remember he's like, what? How could you do this? Like, you know, we just got rid of my abusive father. Now you come here and, you know, my mom has to deal with you and another kid, and you're 13 and it's so embarrassing. How did that happen? I remember he asked me so many questions. He asked me, how did it happen? How long have you guys been doing it? You know, stuff like that. He asked me every question. I answered it. He told me to lift up my shirt. I lifted up my shirt. He's like, oh my gosh. And so he's like, so you're not sure? If you're not sure, we need to go get your pregnancy test. I remember we figured out a way for them to get pregnancy tests. His friend helped him, I believe, and stuff like that. So we got pregnancy test. He came home, we took the pregnancy test, and of course it comes out positive. And I remember I was so dumb back then. He showed me a pregnancy test. He's like, you're pregnant, Leslie. And I said, and I remember I smirked, and he's like, you think this is funny? Like, do you think this is funny? And I can't believe I smirked till this day, because I'm just like, oh Lord, girl, like, could you do anything worse? And so I remember I smirked, and he's like, you think this is funny? Like, this is not funny. And he's like, I'm gonna tell my mom. I'm gonna tell her. I remember I begged him. I was like, please don't tell her. Like, please don't tell her. Please, please, please. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna give you till Sunday. This was the beginning of the week. I was still in school. I was just starting it. So at the beginning of the week, he's like, I'm gonna give you until Sunday to tell my mom. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay. And so I remember Sunday came around, but that whole week was very intense in our house because my oldest brother, my sister, and I all knew that I was pregnant. We didn't tell my mom. And so every time we sat on the like around the table, plus my second oldest brother didn't know anything. And we sat on the table and we knew this secret, and it's terrible holding secrets because secrets like kill you literally. And I remember sitting there like that whole week, and I would like walk by each other, and you know, we'd give each other like looks, and you know, we just felt like keeping a secret is very difficult emotionally, mentally. It just kind of drains you and kills you. So Sunday came around, I could not tell her. I did not tell her. I couldn't tell her. My brother asked me, did you tell her? And I'm like, no, I can't. And so he's like, okay, then I'm gonna tell her. I was like, no, just give me till next Sunday. I promise I'll tell her next Sunday. And so next Sunday rolled around. That whole week again was very intense, very weird. And Sunday came around, and I went into her room. Me and AJ encouraged me to go into her room, and we went into her room, and I stood there for like 2 hours. I was like, Mom, I cannot tell her. I knew she knew. She probably knew what was going on. And she sat down. She was sitting on her bed, and she was reading something. She put it down. She was like, what's going on? Like, tell me. And it literally felt like forever for me telling her. And I kept stumbling across words. I couldn't say it. I kept laughing. I was nervous. And at this point, it was like an hour passed, and AJ's mom was calling him because he needed to be home. We had a curfew. And he couldn't go home until we told her. And so at this point, I think AJ was just getting really frustrated at me because I couldn't tell her. And so he took over, and he's like, Leslie's pregnant. And I remember Mom's face, just something sank in her, and she's like, how? Like, how could you be pregnant? Like, you're joking, right? And I'm like, no, Mom, I'm pregnant. I'm really pregnant. And so she's like, how do you know? And I remember I told her I took a pregnancy test and everything, and she was just like, what? And I remember she sat there and she was crying, and she was just like, I told you guys not to do this. I honestly thought she was gonna beat me, but she didn't. She was like, I told you guys should have not done this. If you guys, you know, did have sex, like, tell me. She just sat there and she told us, you know, lectured us and everything. And then AJ's mom kept calling, so he answered it, and that's whenever he told his mom that I was pregnant. it was a lot easier for AJ to tell his mom, I believe, because he didn't have the past that I did. And so it's just very simple for him to tell his mom. He told them, well, Leslie's pregnant, and they came over. And I remember at this point I was really, really scared. I was really nervous. Anxiety kicked in, and I remember I was like, I think I was crying at this point. And my mom like looked at me and she's like, Leslie, it's not about you. You need to calm yourself. You need to stop stressing yourself out, because you need to worry about that baby in you. And so her support was the most, and the most I could ask for it. I think it's something very important. And so I listened to her, I stopped crying, and she was like, his family came over, we waited for them, and, you know, they just asked me questions like, you know, what do you guys want to do, what's your plan? They were also very supportive, and it was just his mom and his stepdad. His dad lived far away, and so I didn't tell his dad, or I wasn't there whenever he told his dad, so I don't know what his reaction was, or, you know, how it was, and so I don't know about that. But, you know, my mom helped me out through all that. She set up my appointments. We went to go take a pregnancy test at the clinic, and I remember throughout this whole time, I was so scared. Like, I was just so scared to step out of my bubble, you know, because it's very uncomfortable what they do to you whenever you're pregnant. I'm pretty sure my family was pretty embarrassed of me, and I'm not ashamed to say that, but I am ashamed to say that. Like now I've come to realize like how probably embarrassed my family was of me, but I'm not ashamed to say it, because they were embarrassed of me. They had every right to be embarrassed of me, and whenever I say it, I'm just like, they had every right to be embarrassed. But they were also very supportive, and they're the best that I could ever ask for. So we ended up telling my second oldest brother that I was pregnant, my mom and I, and he did get really, really mad, but he didn't beat anyone and he didn't kill anyone, so thank you, Jesus. But he got really mad. He's like, what? He's like, you're 13, man, like what's wrong with you? And I'm just like, I know, like, but that's how we told him. My oldest brother was the one who would take me to my appointments. He would be the one who would get me, you know, my cravings. He got a job because he needed one, because he couldn't pay for gas all the time. He wanted to help out my mom, I believe. And he was just the one who helped me everywhere. I'm not going to talk too much about him because I will start crying, but he helped me out with a lot of things, and I really appreciate him. Even till like before he passed away, he helped me get here, get back, and he was just the most amazing brother I could ever ask for. He definitely put on the shoes of a dad, and I really admire him for that. I love him for that, and I'll always cherish him for that. Yeah, that was it. I had Anthony July 21st. It was terrible delivery, terrible experience, but I got through it, and he's here now, so that's good. Also, people at school, you guys are probably wondering like how people at school treated me or everything like that, and they were very they would give me dirty looks. It wasn't so negative. I got this one guy who would call me a hoe on the bus, but that's about it. They have to live with themselves. I don't have to live, you know, with that, but it wasn't too bad. Like, they would give me dirty looks every time that somebody came up to me and asked me like, oh, you know, are you pregnant? I would always say yes. Like, I would never lie to them, because I just don't think that's a good, you know, not that I didn't think, because I was a big liar back then, but because my mom started telling me like, don't lie to people, they're gonna find out whether or not you tell them. And so she's like, just don't lie to them. And so, you know, whenever people would come up to me, or, you know, students and friends would come up to me, they're students, like I'm a teacher, you know, other students would come up to me and ask me, you know, are you pregnant, just by curiosity. I would say yes. One thing that I do regret though is going too in depth with those little kids, because I know a lot of people would come up to me, like a lot of my friends or a lot of other students would come up to me like, oh, you're pregnant? Like, yes. They're like, how? Like, did you guys not use protected sex, or like, what happened? Did he pull out, or did he not pull out? Like, it was just too much information. I remember I went into a detail because I felt like they needed those answers, but in reality they didn't. Like, looking back, I regret saying all those things. I think just by saying yes, I'm pregnant would be enough. Walking away would have been enough. And so, but yeah, people would ask me, I would be very truthful to them, yeah, I think that's all for Anthony. With Leah, on the other hand, I found out I was pregnant. I was 16 years old. Anthony was about to turn 3, and I was 16 years old, and I had just moved with AJ to Washington, and I was expecting my life to go a whole nother route. I wasn't expecting for it to go the way it did. I wasn't expecting to get pregnant, at least, and I remember I told you I can't be pregnant. But I felt like, you know, something was definitely wrong with me, and the only answer to that was I'm pregnant. I didn't want to eat, I didn't want to do anything, I wanted to sleep the whole time, and so that was definitely hard on me, and I couldn't really hide that for too long. I remember we were to the age where we could go by ourselves, you know, AJ could drive, and he worked, so he could go buy me a pregnancy test, and he did, and after that, he bought me a pregnancy test, we got home, I took it, and it came out positive really fast. And I remember I was 4 weeks because I checked my period, and you know, I did all the calculations. I was 4 weeks long, and I would keep track of that. And so I remember I like sat in the restroom and I just kind of cried by myself. And I remember I went to go tell AJ, and I remember he like started crying, but he was like crying of happiness. I was crying more of like you could say like disbelief, like I didn't want this to be real. And but he encouraged me a lot, and he was just like, you know, we'll get through it. Things happen, well, I'll tell my parents, and don't worry about it. And he was just really trying to calm me down. I was still too embarrassed to tell my mom, I believe. I didn't want to tell her, so I called her whenever I was around 19 weeks, I believe. I found out whenever I was 4 weeks, and I didn't tell her until I was 19 weeks, and I called her and she answered, and I was just like, Mom, I'm pregnant. It took me a while to, but I told my sister right after I found out, I believe. I told her, I texted her a picture, and I was just like, I'm pregnant, you're gonna be an auntie again, and she's just like, what? But yeah, and so, Mom, you know, she told me the same thing, don't worry about yourself, worry about the baby, make sure that they're healthy, get prenatal care, go to the doctor, you know, she was just worried about the baby once again. Of course, it's not like she wasn't worried about me, but you know, the stress can be very dangerous whenever you're pregnant, and she was just letting me know that. But then after that, we told AJ's mom and his stepdad, which is the people that we lived with, and we told them because I couldn't hide it anymore. I was just very sick. I was like throwing up everywhere, and I remember we went out to the garage one day and we told them AJ told them that I was pregnant, and his stepdad took it very, like, he was very supportive. He's like, well, what can we do now? And I remember his mom wasn't too supportive, but I mean, like, she was just kind of disappointed in us. They didn't expect us to have another baby, and they also caught on of what was going on because they could see me that I was sick. And I remember AJ's mom would say, Leslie, you better not be pregnant, and of course, what other thing could you expect? But we told them. I didn't tell his dad once again, so I don't know what his reaction was. And we told his family, and they were all very supportive people. It was just that I had a really hard time with depression with her pregnancy. It wasn't like postpartum depression. No, it was like during my pregnancy depression. I went through a lot. I got my heart broken throughout that time. It was just a lot that I went through her pregnancy. I wish I didn't go through it all, and I'm kind of scared to get pregnant again because of because of what I experienced with her. I don't want to feel so miserable anymore, or ever again, because I hit rock bottom whenever I was pregnant with her, and I got back up and I kept going after I gave birth to her, but I really felt like I wasn't gonna make it throughout those few months that I held her in my belly and my uterus, to be specific. It was just very hard months, and yeah. I think that's about it. I think that's it. That's just my story. It was just I think I had to deal with guilt. It was a lot of mental stuff, a lot of emotional stuff. I had to deal with everything on my own. Like I always say in my videos, it affects you whenever you are emotionally and mentally just keeping it all in. That's what worries me the most whenever I talk to people, whenever they don't like share their emotions or anything like that. They're just kind of like quiet, and because your emotions and your thoughts kind of can kill you, like literally. They depress you, they take your happiness, your joy, they take it all away if you let them get to you, and something that we constantly have to fight. So yeah, I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to y'all later. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.